I'm Emma, 34 years old. My, now ex-husband is Jake, 36. We were together for 10 years, married for 8. No kids. Not because we didn't want them, but because we couldn't. 3 rounds of IVF, 2 early miscarriages, and 1 in the 4th month. After that, we both kind of broke. Jake said he needed to shut off his brain, and threw himself into work. I went to therapy. The last 2 years we lived like roommates who sometimes had scheduled sex to stay connected. I thought we were coping. I thought the crisis was just a phase. It all started with a notification on his Apple Watch. We were in the kitchen. Jake was doing dishes, I was putting away groceries. His watch buzzed, and I automatically glanced over. A message from Leah. The text. Last night was amazing. My boyfriend's out of town until Thursday, so let me know if you want to repeat. I froze. Jake saw my look, jerked his hand, pulled off the watch and shoved it in his pocket. Too fast. Too nervous. He said, "It's just a coworker, she's joking. She has a weird sense of humor." I could have started a fight. I could have demanded his phone. But I'd been with this guy for 10 years. I knew that if I started yelling, he'd just delete everything and then call me paranoid. So I pretended to believe him. I smiled and said, "Oh, okay, funny. Well, I'm going to take a shower." In the shower, I didn't cry. I sat on the tile floor and just stared at the wall. My brain was rebooting. I replayed the last 6 months. His late nights at work. The new cologne he bought himself, woody, sharp, not my favorite. His irritation when I tried to hug him. And one detail that had seemed nice then but now was a red flag. He'd started going to the gym. Not the one we went to together, but a different one across town. He said they had better boxing coaches. I believed him because he'd always wanted to learn to box. Now I understood. He wanted to impress someone else, not me. I didn't go through his phone right away. That would have been too simple and stupid. He's not an idiot. In a few days he'd just change his password. Instead, I started gathering information slowly, like a snail. First, I checked our family phone plan. We were on the same T-Mobile account. I logged into the online portal and went to the call and text detail section. And there, among our short exchanges about buy bread and running late, I saw one number he'd been texting every day. Up to 50 messages a day. Sometimes at 3 a.m. The number wasn't saved in my phone, but it had the same area code as us. I wrote it down in a notebook. I didn't call. Second, I hired a private investigator. His name was Mike, a former cop with a forgettable face. I found him through a women's forum where girls advised each other to pack your suitcase quietly. Mike charged $150 an hour. I withdrew money from our joint savings account in small amounts so Jake wouldn't notice. I said I was buying Christmas presents. It was October. He didn't even ask. Mike worked for 3 weeks. He found out that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Jake left work an hour early. He told me he was coming home, but he actually drove to Premium Fitness on Lexington Avenue. But not the gym itself, the coffee shop across the street. There he met a woman. Mike took zoom lens photos. Blonde, about 30, athletic, short hair. They kissed in the parking lot. Then they got into her gray Ford Explorer and drove to a cheap motel on Highway 22. The same motel I'd driven past 100 times on my way to the outlet mall and thought, who even goes to a place like that? Now I knew who. Mike gave me a dossier. The mistress's name, Leah Morrison, 31 years old. Works as a regional sales manager for a medical equipment company. She lives in a neighboring town, 20 minutes away. And here's where it got interesting. Mike dug deeper. Leah Morrison is not single. She has a boyfriend. His name is Marcos. They've lived together for 4 years. Not married. No kids, but they have a corgi named Bagel. I looked at Marcos's photo. Solid guy, light stubble, works as a construction foreman. Tall, broad shoulders. In one photo he's walking the corgi in the park, and he looks like a normal, tired guy who loves his dog and his girlfriend, who, it turns out, is sleeping with my husband twice a week in a motel. I had a choice. I could get a divorce right away. Go to a lawyer, show the photos, take half of everything, the house we bought with a mortgage, 2 cars, about $200,000 in savings. I'd get alimony? No kids. I'd get compensation for emotional distress? In our state, it doesn't work like in the movies. Jake would just give me half, and we'd split. He'd marry Leah in a year, and everyone would forget. I didn't want him to just give me money. I wanted him to lose what was more important to him than money. His reputation, his peace of mind, his illusion that he was a smart, slick guy who knew how to manage his life. And then I did something many will judge me for. I found Marcos. I didn't hire a detective for this. I just typed his name into Facebook. There were 3. One of them, Marcos Rodriguez, from the neighboring town, profile photo with a corgi, status, in a relationship, was him. His page was semi-public. I saw he liked pizza, the Foo Fighters, and that his last post was 2 months ago, a meme about construction. I sent him a message. I thought about the text for an hour. I couldn't write like a hysterical person. I couldn't write like a victim. I had to write facts. I sent, "Hi Marcos, my name is Emma. This might sound crazy, but I'm Jake's wife, the guy your girlfriend Leah is meeting at the motel on Highway 22 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have photos. I'm sorry to write this. If you want proof, I can send it. I don't want a scene, I want the truth." I hit send at 11 p.m. and waited. The reply came 4 minutes later. He wrote, "Are you serious?" I sent one of Mike's photos. Leah and Jake kissing in the parking lot, their faces visible. Marcos read it. He was online for a long time. Then he wrote, "Meet me tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Starbucks on Main Street. If you're lying, I'll make you regret it." The meeting. I got to Starbucks half an hour early. I was scared Marcos might be aggressive or just not believe me. But he showed up. I recognized him immediately, confident walk but tense shoulders. He ordered black coffee, sat across from me, and said, "Show me everything." I showed him the folder. All the photos, copies of the phone records, which Mike had somehow obtained, routes, dates. Marcos flipped through in silence. Then he closed the folder and asked, "How long have you known?" I told the truth. About a month. But they've been meeting for at least 6 months, maybe more. He exhaled and said, "She told me she was working late. New clients. And I, the idiot, left dinner for her in the microwave." I felt sorry for him. Honestly, he didn't deserve this any more than I did. We sat there in that Starbucks, 2 betrayed people, drinking coffee. I asked, "What do you want to do?" Marcos said a phrase that changed everything. "I want them to pay. Not with money. I want them to wake up one day and realize their perfect little world has fallen apart. I want Leah to come home and see that I'm gone. And your Jake can end up with nothing." And then we realized we had a common enemy. This wasn't classic revenge with broken windows and burned belongings. This was an operation we planned like a military campaign. We exchanged numbers. I gave Marcos my real number. He gave me his. We decided no one, not a single soul, would know about our partnership. We met 2 more times in a grocery store parking lot, sitting in his truck, working out details. The plan. I say nothing to Jake. I act normal. Even better than normal. I become the perfect wife. Bake his favorite cherry pie. Ask about work. Initiate sex. It disgusted me, but I forced myself. I want him to feel safe. To relax. Marcos says nothing to Leah. He acts normal, but he starts slowly transferring money from their joint account to a separate account Leah doesn't know about. Small amounts, legally, so she can't claim it when they split. I hire the best divorce lawyer in town. A woman named Deborah Schwartz. $500 an hour. I don't tell her about Marcos. I just tell her I want to file for divorce due to infidelity and I have proof. Deborah says the house is my advantage because my parents made the down payment and I have bank statements. The career hit. Marcos has a friend at Leah's company who doesn't like her. They can make sure her affair with a married man, framed as a relationship with a client, gets to our. Her contract has a moral conduct clause. She could lose her bonus, maybe her job. The final blow, we pick a date. A Thursday, their usual meeting night. Marcos and I will arrive at the motel at the same time, but not together. I'll come in my car, he in his. We'll catch them in the room. Not like in cheap movies. No screaming, no breaking things. We'll just walk in, sit on the bed, and calmly say, "We know everything." Get dressed. It sounded beautiful, but in reality, things went off the rails. The unplanned acceleration. 2 weeks before our planned date, Jake came home ecstatic. Too ecstatic. He said he'd been offered a partnership at his law firm. He'd become an owner. More money, more prestige. He opened champagne. I smiled and clinked glasses, but inside I was clenched. Because partnership would mean that in a divorce, I could claim a share of the business. But it also meant he'd become even more arrogant. I called Marcos. He said, Leah has good news too. She said she wants to talk about our future. Kids. Buying a house. She's up to something. We realized the lovers were planning to legitimize their relationship. Leah would probably dump Marcos for Jake. And Jake would dump me. But they did cleanly, coming out dry. Jake had probably already talked to a lawyer. I checked his computer, his browser history. He'd been looking at articles about divorce without loss and how to hide assets. He was setting a trap for me. I decided to act first. Marcos came up with a brilliant move. He said, I'll tell Leah I'm going on a 3-day business trip Friday night. She'll believe it, but I'll stay. And you tell Jake you're going to your mom's for the weekend because her blood pressure is acting up. He'll be thrilled and invite Leah to your house. To our house. Because motels are one thing, but screwing in your marital bed, that's a whole other level of thrill for them. And we'll catch them there. The thought of Leah in my bed made me physically ill. But I agreed, because I wanted Jake to see my face at the moment he climbed out of those sheets with his mistress. The Friday night, I told Jake my mom wasn't feeling well and I had to go to New Jersey for the weekend. My mom really does live there, and her blood pressure really does spike sometimes, so it was half true. Jake pretended to be sympathetic. He even helped me pack my bag. I kissed him goodbye on Friday at 6 p.m. I left. I drove 2 blocks, turned around, and parked on a side street where I could see our house. I put on a baseball cap and dark glasses. Marcos texted. Leah left the house at 7. Said she's going to the gym. But she's done up like she's going to a beauty pageant. At 7:30 p.m., the gray Ford Explorer pulled up. Leah got out. She was wearing a tight black dress and heels, for the gym, right? She rang the bell. Jake opened the door in 5 seconds. He was wearing his favorite polo shirt, the one I'd given him for his birthday. They hugged, and he pulled her inside. The door closed. I waited 10 minutes. Texted Marcos. They're inside. Where are you? He replied, 5 minutes away. We agreed not to knock. I have keys. I just opened the door. Marcos would follow. I was shaking as I put the key in the lock. The living room light was on. Music was playing, the same song Jake and I had danced to at our wedding. The irony. I opened the door. Loudly, on purpose. Walked down the hall. First I saw their jackets thrown on the floor. Then I heard laughter from the bedroom. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open with my foot. They were on our bed. Jake on top, shirt off. Leah in a lace bra and panties, hair down. She screamed when she saw me. A real shriek. Jake turned, saw me, and his face went white, then red. I said, "Hi honey. I thought you'd miss me." And then Marcos appeared in the doorway. He was taller than Jake by a few inches and broader in the shoulders. He crossed his arms and said calmly, "Hey Leah. Nice gym. Want to open that wine or have you changed your mind?" Jake scrambled off Leah, pulling on his jeans, stammering. "Emma, it's not what you think. This means nothing." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Say that again. On camera. So my mom can watch it later." Leah was staring at Marcos in horror. She whimpered, "Marcos, please, let's go home and talk." Marcos said, "Home? The apartment we're renting? I moved out this afternoon. Your stuff is in boxes in the garage. I took the dog. The keys are on the kitchen table. You can move in here with Jake tomorrow if he'll have you." Leah burst into real tears, mascara running. Jake lunged for my phone, but Marcos stepped toward him, and Jake backed off. Marcos was bigger, and Jake knew it. I said, "Jake, listen carefully. I've already filed for divorce. Deborah Schwartz has the papers. Your firm will get a copy on Monday, along with copies of all the motel photos and the ones I just took in our bedroom. I also sent your partner Tom a reminder that he owes me $20,000 from last year's loan. He promised me a favor. So Monday morning, all the partners will know what a great family man you are." Jake went pale. He knew partnership was about trust. If the partners found out he was cheating on his wife and lying to clients, he'd sometimes padded his billable hours, he'd never make partner. Ever. Leah dressed in 3 minutes, hands shaking. She didn't look at Jake. She kept repeating to Marcos, "I love you." It was a mistake. He means nothing. Marcos said, he means enough to sleep with him twice a week for 6 months. Go home, Leah. Or rather, go to your new apartment. I forgive you, but I'm not taking you back. We're done. They left. Leah was sobbing in the parking lot. Marcos got in his truck and drove away. I stayed with Jake in the bedroom. The negotiation. Jake sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. I stood by the door, arms crossed. We were silent for 2 minutes. Then he said, "You planned this with him? With my mistress's boyfriend? Are you two together?" I said, "No, we're allies. But even if we were together, it's none of your business. You lost the right to ask about my personal life when you fucked someone else in my bed." He asked, "What do you want? Money? Take the money. Just don't touch the firm. It's my life." I said, "I want the house. Fully, no buyout. I want both cars. I want $150,000 from the joint accounts. I want you to sign everything my lawyer sends without arguing. And I want you to write a letter to your mom and my mom telling them the truth. That you cheated on me with Leah for 6 months. I'm not calling your mom to explain why we're divorcing. You are." He tried to bargain. $100,000. House half and half. 1 car each. No letters to moms. I said, "No. $150,000. House to me. Both cars to me. And the letters. If you don't agree, tomorrow morning the bedroom video goes to your partners, your mom, your clients, and Facebook. Your choice." He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "You've become cruel, Emma. I didn't know you were like this." I said, "I haven't become cruel. I just stopped being your wife. There's a difference." He signed everything 3 days later. Deborah said it was one of the fastest cases in her practice. Men usually fight over every fork. But Jake knew that if I published the video, he'd not only lose the partnership, he might be disbarred for immoral conduct. So he swallowed his pride and signed. Life after divorce. The first 2 months, I lived alone in the house that used to be ours. Tango, our lab, slept on half the bed, and that was fine. I went to therapy twice a week. I cried at night, not for Jake, but for the years I'd wasted on someone who didn't respect me. My therapist said, "You're not wrong for trusting. He's wrong for abusing that trust." 3 months after the divorce, Marcos texted me. Not romantic, just, "Hey Emma, how are you? I was thinking about our operation. Want to grab coffee? Not a date, just to catch up. And I want you to know, I took Bagel, he's fine." I agreed. We met at the same Starbucks on Main Street. He came with the corgi. Bagel was small, fluffy, and very friendly. He jumped right into my lap. Marcos ordered oat milk latte. We talked for 3 hours. He told me Leah had tried to win him back. Came to his house with a pie, cried, promised therapy. He didn't open the door. Then she sent 47 messages in one evening. From, "I love you," to, "You're a worthless loser." He blocked her everywhere. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 cats. She got cats because, quote, "A dog was too much responsibility." Though Bagel weighed 12 kilos. I told him Jake lost the partnership. Tom had said at the partners meeting that he had serious doubts about Jake's moral character, and that they needed to wait 6 more months for additional vetting. His candidacy was effectively postponed indefinitely. Jake quit that firm a month later and now works at a small insurance law firm. His salary was cut in half. He lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in a bad neighborhood. Marcos said, "You know, I sometimes feel guilty. Not for what we did to them, but for how glad I am it happened. Because if Leah hadn't cheated, I'd still be living with a woman who didn't love me. I'd have married her, had kids, and found out the truth 10 years later. It would have hurt even more." I said, "Me too. Jake was my project. I tried to fix him, understand him, help him. He just used me. Now I'm free." We looked at each other. And in that moment, I realized I liked him. Not as a revenge ally. As a person. He laughed at his own jokes, he petted the dog when she sighed, and he listened to me in a way Jake never had. But I didn't say anything. Too soon. From friendship to more, we started meeting as friends. Coffee once a week, then every 2 days, then every day. We walked Bagel in the park, went to movies, talked about work. I learned that Marcos is the son of Mexican immigrants. His mom cleaned schools, his dad died when he was 20. He worked his way up from construction laborer and now has his own small commercial renovation company. He's saving for a down payment on a house. He learned that I love detective shows, hate cooking, but I'm great at grilling steak, and that I take the train to New Jersey once a month to see my mom. He said, "I go with you sometime. Meet your mom, if you're okay with that." That was the first hint. 5 months after our first coffee, he kissed me. It was after dinner at an Italian restaurant. We walked out into light rain. He held an umbrella over my head, and then he just leaned in and kissed me. Not passionately, gently. As if asking permission, I kissed him back. We started dating, but we kept it secret from almost everyone. Because we were afraid of judgment. How can you date your mistress's boyfriend? That's emotional incest. You're both crazy. But we didn't care. A random encounter. A year after the divorce, I ran into Leah at a supermarket. She was buying cat food. I was pushing a cart. Our eyes met. She didn't recognize me at first. I dyed my hair dark, then her face froze. She said, "Emma?" I said, "Yeah, Leah. How's life?" She said, "You know how. You won. Marcos is with you, isn't he? I saw your Instagram photos. You're not even hiding it." I said, "I'm not hiding because I have nothing to hide. Marcos and I met thanks to you. Thanks for the introduction." She went pale. She said, "You're a cruel bitch. You ruined my life." I said, "Me? You spread your legs for my husband. I just picked up the pieces. You ruined your own life. Have a nice day." She left her cart in the middle of the aisle. I bought my dog food and left. That night I told Marcos. He said, "If she ever touches you, tell me. I'll talk to her." I said, "No need. She doesn't matter anymore." The proposal. Marcos proposed a year and a half after our first kiss. It wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. We were sitting in the kitchen, eating pizza, bagel asleep under the table. Marcos suddenly said, "Emma, I want you to know, I will never cheat on you. Because I've seen how much it hurts. And because I love you. Not the way I loved Leah, that was habit. This is different. You're my team. Will you marry me?" He didn't have a ring. He said, "We'll buy the ring together. I want you to pick what you like, not what I think you should like." I said yes before he finished the sentence. We got married 3 months later at the courthouse. Only my mom, his mom, 2 best friends, and bagel in a bow tie. No white dress, no band, no $3,000 cake. Afterwards we went to a pizza place and each had a slice of pineapple pizza. Yes, I know it's controversial, but we like it. Where are they now? Jake works at an insurance law firm, salary $85,000 a year. At the firm where he was up for partner, he made $220,000. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment facing a gas station. His mom knows the truth. I sent her the letter with photos, as I demanded. Jake's mom wrote back, "You were always like a daughter to me. I'm sorry my son is such an idiot. You deserve better." I replied, "Thank you. I already found better." She and Marcos are now Facebook friends. It's strange but nice. Leah was fired from her company 2 months after that night. Marcos, through his friend, passed information about her affair with a married man, framed as a relationship with a client violating the ethics code, to our. She lost her yearly bonus and was asked to resign. She resigned. Now she works half-time at an insurance company selling policies over the phone. Her salary covers rent for a 1-bedroom and cat food for 2 cats. She's tried dating, but reportedly without success. 2 guys dumped her when they heard the story. She still sometimes texts Marcos from different numbers, begging forgiveness. He blocks each new number. Marcos and me. Live in my house, now ours. We have Bagel and Tango, and they've become friends. Marcos officially started his own company, and I help him with bookkeeping in the evenings. We plan to adopt a child in 2 years, once we're more settled. And yes, we see a couples therapist once a month, even when things are good. Because we don't want to repeat old mistakes. FAQs, from Reddit comments. 1. Aren't you afraid Marcos will cheat too? He was with Leah, who cheated. Maybe he attracts that type? No, I'm not afraid. First, Leah's cheating wasn't his fault. Second, we talk about everything openly. We know each other's phone passwords but don't check. We have a rule. If anyone feels insecure, we say it immediately, without storing it up. It's hard, but we're learning. 2. Didn't you feel sorry for Jake when he cried that night? That night? No. 6 months later, I felt a little sorry when I heard he was sleeping in his car because he couldn't find an apartment right away. But then I remembered he was fucking another woman in my bed while I made him dinner. And the pity went away. 3. How did your mom react to you marrying Marcos? My mom said, "Honey, life is strange. If you're happy, I'm happy." She had only one objection. She thought we were moving in together too fast. But we didn't rush the wedding, so she calmed down. 4. What advice do you have for people going through infidelity right now? 3 things. First, don't make any decisions in the first 48 hours. Your emotions are sky high, and you'll do stupid things. Second, gather evidence, even if you don't plan to divorce. You need it for your own protection. Third, don't be ashamed to ask for help. From friends, therapists, detectives. You don't have to go through it alone. 5. Do you regret the revenge? I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret that Jake faced consequences. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. 2 years before that notification on the watch, we already had problems. I just didn't want to see them. What I learned that trust isn't naivety. It's a choice you make every day. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Jake showed me he was a selfish man who put his desires above other people's feelings. I didn't believe it, now I do. I learned that revenge isn't always bad. Sometimes it's the only way for the victim to feel like they have power. But it's important that revenge doesn't become the goal. My goal wasn't revenge, it was justice. So Jake would understand that his actions have consequences. He understood. I learned that you can start a new life with someone you met in hell. It's not romantic, it's scary. But it's possible. Marcos and I are living proof. This morning I was making breakfast. Marcos was playing with Bagel in the yard. Tango was at my feet waiting for a piece of bacon to fall. I looked out the window and thought, 2 years ago I was sitting on the bathroom floor, not knowing how to go on. And now I'm here. Jake texted me last week. He found my new number through mutual friends. The message was long, but the gist was, he's sorry, he's in therapy, he realized he was a terrible husband, and he asked for forgiveness. Not to get back together, just for closure. I replied, Jake, I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying this weight. But I don't want to see you or hear from you again. Good luck in your new life. Please don't write again. He didn't reply. I think he understood. Update from 2024. Marcos and I moved to a new house. We sold the old one, too many memories of Jake. The new house is smaller but cozier. Has a garden. Marcos built a doghouse for Bagel and Tango with his own hands, they still sleep inside. I changed jobs. I'm now the head of recruiting at a small IT company. My salary is almost what Jake made in his best years. Leah moved to another state. Florida, they say. I hope she's doing better. Or not, I don't care. Jake is still alone. He tried online dating, but someone, not me, sent a link to this post to his potential matches. He was removed from 2 platforms for inappropriate conduct. I don't know if it's true, but it makes me smile. Marcos is now asleep on the couch with Bagel on his chest. Tango is at his feet. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, drinking tea, writing this update. And I'm happy. Truly happy. The kind of happy that doesn't depend on another person, but that another person makes brighter.